might be a Viking or a Saxon or a Roman, but tell me, do you like 'em? Would you sex 'em? Would you bone 'em? Would you go to bed with King Ethelred? Would you bonk William the Conqueror up in the sheets with Samuel Pepys? Mussolini was a meanie, led a fascist insurrection, but does he make you creamy? Does he give you an erection? Would you pork Richard the Duke of York? Does a boner start when you think of Bonaparte? Are you sexually aroused at the thought of Pol Pot? Historical hot or not?
Hello and welcome to Historical Hot or Not, the only history podcast that looks at the life and times of history's most celebrated figures and asks, yes, but would you? It's the pod parchment that puts the ass in Renaissance, the lad in Vladimir Lenin, the clit in Heraclitus. I am your co-host, Aidan McCaffrey. I am not a historian, and this is...
Catherine Mather, who is also not a historian, but I do very much appreciate your intros, Aidan. They're getting more and more specific, and I'm here for it.
Kath, I am one day going to run out of historical figures and events that contain lewd, sexual words in them. But until that day comes...
Then will I have to start writing them?
We'll just have to change the entire theme of the podcast to something different, like...
gardening or something.
Yeah, gardening, hot or not, where I come up with as many, hedge-based sex puns as possible. We are comedians, we are horny for history. Kath, if you were part of a harem serving a powerful man in history, sexually, would you prefer to do it in shifts or just as a regular 9 to 5?
Goodness me. Well, I think the good part of shift work is that, because you work the unsociable hours, then you can end up having maybe like a Tuesday afternoon free, which is a good time to go to the supermarket. So I do see the merits of shift work. Would you get paid the same? Because that was the downside of shift work for me.
Let's assume the salary is constant in both.
Oh, okay. Shift work then, yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to spend the Tuesday in town when it's not busy and not
exactly
sucking off a sultan. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's nice to be able to sort of go to a museum and not have to navigate other people's children.
Because when you're in the museum at the weekends, there's kids everywhere, families, people pushing prams. Not on a Wednesday, though.
No. And then on Saturday afternoon, you're just, sucking D.
Exactly. And also, often you get the bank holidays back as part of shift work, and it just gets added onto your annual leave. So you get technically, you can have longer periods off from sitting on an Ottoman ruler's face. So
yeah. So where do I sign?
I'll send you the documents, and if you could send me the P60 from your last job, and we'll get you signed up.
Historical hot or not?
I was listening to a podcast about the father of gynecology, and did you know, whenever you had a minge exam in the olden days, they wouldn't look at it because that was improper, so they'd just stare you directly in the eyes as they felt your pussy.
That's how I finger blast people, so
yeah.
I guess that makes me a minge doctor.
Can you think of anything more uncomfortable?
I wouldn't want my doctor staring me in the face.
Dead in the eye.
If anything, I'd rather the doctor just went down on me than stared dead in my eye while checking if I had ball cancer.
I'd have a better time if he did that. Can you imagine if that was the only way to find out if you had ball cancer?
What, get sucked off?
Yeah.
Every week I'd be in there going, I think I found another lump.
There'd be so many false calls.
Hey, you can't be this paranoid about it. Remember, the ball is generally lumpy. Just get down there, okay? It's supposed to be free at the point of entry, whatever it's called, the NHS. Well, this is a strong start to the episode.
It really is. Should we first explain the premise and then do the premise of the podcast that we're doing?
That's how podcasts work. Shoot.
Each week, I will bring Aidan, a lovely lady, or Aidan will bring me some guy from history, and we have to decide if we would fuck them. And if we would, they go on the Bayeux Tapestry, and if we wouldn't, they can get to fuck, I think.
They can rot in hell.
Yeah, for all I care. Are we objectifying people? Yeah. Are we being serious? Yes. So
I like how you change your tune from episode 1, Kath. In episode 1 you were like, we don't mean any of this, but now you're like, I mean this. I'm deadly serious. If I don't want them, they are dead to me.
I mean, they're all dead anyway. So.
That's true.
actually dead and to me.
Indeed.
This week, it's my turn. So, without further ado, Aidan, we're talking about Judy. She's 20 and she's from Shanghai.
Ooh.
Now, at this point, we would usually share a photograph from her dating profile on the fictional app eTrust. However, I am tired and don't have a picture of her. I'll just have to explain what she looks like. She has got dark eyes. She's white. She's female. She's got dark hair, cute little nose. What do you think?
I'm going to say yes, but because I was watching broadcast news this morning, and you've just described how Holly Hunter looks in that film. So all I can think about now is Holly Hunter in broadcast news, which I'm sure is not who you've picked. So I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah? Alright, cool. Well, we're cooking on gas, baby. Judy, she was born in Shanghai in February 1937 to Kelly of Sussex. She spent some time on the streets of Shanghai before she began her naval career aboard the HMS Nat, and then she moved on to her sister ship, which was a river gunboat called the HMS Grasshopper. She had a talent for being able to hear fighter planes approach before the other sailors could, so she would alert them as an early warning. Very good hearing. Do you like good hearing in a woman?
No. I like them to not be able to hear any of my bullshit, because I feel like if they could hear anything I said, I'm not getting a second date.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Ideally, I don't even prefer. I prefer them to not even have ears.
That's a rule.
A hole on each side with a bit of cotton wool stuck in each hole.
I like a bird.
Yeah, that's what I'm into.
Yeah.
If you know any women with claws for feet, you send it my way.
And a cloaca. So
I mean, that would be horrendous, because everything comes out of the cloaca, doesn't it?
yeah. Oh,
Just
God.
one hole for everything. I like the utility of that, of the cloaca.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about cunnilingus, it raises some issues.
Yeah. Well, if you want to do some research for the podcast, Aidan, go and lick out a bird and then let us know next episode. During her time on the HMS Nat, she fell overboard in November 1936. The crew had to return for her and it was logged as a man overboard. She also discovered pirates trying to get on the ship around this time, and she was able to get the crew together and they all got rid of him. A year later, November 1937, the Nat met up with an American vessel called the USS Panay, and the two crews had a big old party, as you do. Upon departure the next day, the crew of the Nat realised that Judy was not with them, so they contacted the crew of the Panay, who said that she wasn't there either, but word reached the crew of the Nat that she was, in fact, on board the Panay. So a party from the Nat boarded the American vessel and stole the ship's bell, and within an hour she was released back to them. Which sounds awful, doesn't it, really? What would you steal to keep your woman?
I'd like to say I'd steal a child. That's how great my love for my woman is.
Yeah.
But I've got a feeling the sentence for that is going to be quite long. What I'm saying is I'm a married man. But if the only option is to steal a child, then sorry, wife, I'm reinstalling Tinder.
It's like Taken, only you wouldn't have gone to Turkey.
In that analogy, I'm the guys that have stolen Liam Neeson's daughter, aren't I?
Yeah, you are, actually.
The thing is, Taken's a popular film with dads, because we all like to think that's what we'd do in that situation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We'd ring them up and threaten them in a gravelly Irish accent, but I don't think I would. I don't have a special set of skills. I mean, I can barely do comedy, do you know what I mean? What am I supposed to do? Ring up these people that have kidnapped my daughter and go, I've got a very specific set of skills, which is I can be funny if I've given a lot of time to write the material beforehand, and if the audience don't interrupt me or heckle me too much during the set. In those specific circumstances, I've got a very special set of skills, and none of them will help me get my daughter back. So just keep her. I'll make another one.
I've got a very special set of skills, and all of them are pun-based.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a very special set of skills, and they're largely observational. Let me tell you about shower dials.
So while they were docked in Hankow, I'll be honest, a lot of these places in this episode, it's set in Asia, and I'm going to be butchering a lot of place names, so I do apologise.
The main feature of this is that we're wondering whether this person, whether these people we discussed are going to end up on the biotaphatistry.
Mm-hmm.
I realised listening to a podcast about the biotaphatistry that I've been saying it wrong for all of those episodes.
Yeah.
Because I've been saying biotaphatistry, but I think it's actually biotaphatistry. So what I'm saying is, start as we mean to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep saying everything wrong. We've told him we're not historians. We've told him we're comedians. And if they want phonetic accuracy, well, go to the History of English podcast, because you ain't going to find it here.
Don't use this as a study aid for your GCSEs, for God's sake.
Oh, God, no. Can you imagine some kid writing about Thomas Becket? Like, he got a knife through his head and Catherine Mather would not ride him.
Yeah.
He's getting, not an E, he's getting, like, one of those letters below that you never think actually exist in GCSE, like, you've got an R.
And a letter home to your mum and dad.
Saying you really need to monitor this kid's pod content.
So while they were docked in Hankow in early 1938, which you may know as modern-day Wuhan, which none of us have heard of until 2 years ago, Judy took a fancy to Paul, who was on board the French vessel, the Francis Gardiner. The two crews had an impromptu wedding for the pair, and the couple went on to have 13 children, which is an insane number. Do you think you could look after 13 dependents?
I'm not sure if I could look after a goldfish, to be honest. Let alone 13 goldfish, let alone 13 kids. My grandma had 10 kids. And it's just like, and they actually, to be fair, they pretty much all turned out fine. Apart from my dad, he's a bit of a twat. But, you know, the rest of them, they all kind of turned out fine, and I don't know why.
I wonder if you would love number 13 as much as you love number 1.
Surely they just become white noise. Which is now making me think maybe I could have 13 kids, because I struggle to sleep. So rather than downloading a white noise app, I could just have 13 kids running around screaming, vomiting and shitting.
Headspace.
Yeah, I'm not going to write to Headspace and say, I've got an idea for a new sound effect. 24 children begging for attention that none of them will receive.
It's so stressful.
And they're just like, I think we'll just stick to Crashing Oceans, to be honest.
The HMS Grasshopper was sent to Singapore in June 1939 after the British declaration of war on Germany, and after an initially quiet stay, she was involved in the disastrous Battle of Singapore from the 8th to the 15th of February 1942. On the 15th of February, the HMS Grasshopper was hit by 3 bombs, and the crew were able to make it to shore in lifeboats, only to realise that Judy was not with them. So they returned to find that she'd been trapped under some lockers, and they were able to release her. The island that they landed on was apparently uninhabited and had little to no food or water beyond what they'd managed to bring with them. Judy began to dig in the sand, uncovering fresh water, and was credited with saving everyone's lives. The crew camped on the beach for 5 days, with Judy protecting them from snakes before a boat arrived, and they began the journey to Padang to be evacuated.
Hang on, why is Judy doing all the heavy lifting here?
I don't know. She's just...
Why is it up to her to protect everyone from snakes?
Because she could, I guess.
Why? Was she like a snake whisperer or something?
No. Well, she was a dog. Did I mention that she's a dog?
Wow. No, you didn't mention that she was a dog.
Okay, so she's a dog.
So when I said you described Holly Hunter, I was way off.
A little bit off, yeah.
Wow.
This is interesting. Are you telling me this has been boring?
No, I've been hooked, although I'm now just imagining myself banging a dog.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. Okay, the snakes now make sense. I mean, the water thing's actually quite impressive.
Right, I think she could smell it or something. I don't know.
The dog, irrigated, is that the right word? It plumbed the island for them.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? Good on her. She's a fucking hero. Anyway, to get to Padang, it was a 200-mile trek through the jungle. She was attacked by a crocodile, and the crew patched up the 6-inch wound as best as they could. But even wounded, she managed to warn the travellers of approaching predators, even saving them from a Sumatran tiger. Unfortunately, upon their arrival at Padang, they realised they'd missed the evacuation by 9 days, and were quickly taken as prisoners of war on the 18th of March 1942. So she was the first, and dare I say, only dog to be taken as a prisoner of war by the Japanese.
I think that reflects badly on the Japanese. I'm
Yeah.
a big dog fan. If I was taking prisoners, it would just be dogs for my own amusement.
Yeah.
I'd probably get fired from the army.
Mhm.
They show up at the POW camp and let's see what you've got for us. And it's like, why have you got just 12 Alsatians and no actual Allied soldiers here? And I'm like, yeah, well, look how cute they are. Who's a cute dog? Who's a cute dog?
Aidan, it appears that you've adopted a pack of dogs.
We're losing the war. This isn't helping the situation.
I think that's how Battersea Dog Song was created. Don't hold me to it, but I think that's what happened.
That might also be why the Nazis lost the war, because the Nazis were famous animal lovers. They were Hitler was a vegetarian, and they just had a prisoner of war camp adjacent to Auschwitz that was just full of border terriers.
No, we joke, but genuinely, during the Second World War, we took 2 German pigeons as prisoners of war.
Is that because they were carrier pigeons?
Yeah, we'll have to do an episode, find somewhere to do an episode about pigeons in the Second World War, because, my God, it is insane.
How do you torture a pigeon for information?
There's a Pixar film called Valiant. It's a very good film. It's about pigeons going to war. And I watched that film and was like, okay, this is, just a film. But I watched a documentary called War of the Birds or something. You can find it on YouTube. If you watch that documentary and then you watch Valiant, you're like, it's very historically accurate, actually. This Pixar film about fucking birds getting sent to France.
I'm just imagining that film, The Imitation Game, where Benedict Cumberbatch plays Alan Turing and he's trying to crack the code so they can read all of the German messages. And someone says, we have someone who might have some information for us. And he goes in, and it's just a couple of pigeons there. And Turing's like, I'll get back to the computer. This is not going to help me in any way.
Yeah, I think that is actually what happened in the deleted scenes of the Imitation Game.
They say the first casualty of war is innocence, but from what you're telling me, the first casualty of war is pets.
Well, as well, because they basically rounded up people's pet pigeons. People were keeping them, and because they were racing pigeons. Because you don't want street pigeons, but you get the good ones. So people didn't want their pets being sent to war.
First they came for the gerbils, but I did nothing, for I was not a gerbil.
I'll not say too much about them though, because I would really like to do an episode about the pigeons at some point. Would you fuck a pigeon? We've already found out that Aidan, yeah, you would actually.
I mean, it feels less wrong than when we did Jane Fool and we put her on the biotech data strip. I was a bit like, wow, this is what her legacy has been reduced to. Would I bang her? I feel less bad about it if it's pigeons and dogs.
Yeah. Well, I hope that people know that we are just using Whether You'd Bang Them as a vessel through which we can make a history podcast.
Well, the thing is, as we always say, it's not just the appearance. I actually am not going to do a Stalin episode, because he is hot in his youth. Mm-hmm. But we wouldn't bang him, would we? Because he's a monster.
Yeah.
And there are other people who maybe they're not as attractive, but they're cool. They're cool dudes and dudesses.
Yeah, I think you need to be good on the inside.
Exactly. It's like Stalin, hot, but nothing kills a wide-on like a pogrom. Am I right?
As my grandmother always used to say.
Old Granny Mather is famous for her sayings.
So after 5 days of travel, they arrived at, oh God, I can't say this, Glergoa prisoner of war camp in Medan. Chief Petty Officer Leonard Williams recorded, thus began 3 to 4 years of the most horrific labour, torture, starvation, and every degradation the Japanese could inflict upon us. Which sounds bad, I'm going to say. Judy's official prisoner of war name was 818 Glergoa Medan.
Yeah, good luck trying to get her to respond to that with fetch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Judy was a good dog to have around the prison, because she would distract.
I like how this is you trying to convince me to put this dog on the biotech. It's a good dog. It's a good dog, Aidan, honestly. It's a really good dog. It's like, yeah, but it is a dog.
She's solid. She'd distract guards as they were administering punishments, which meant that the guards often tried to shoot her. And she'd sneak out of the camp and bring food back into people. Whilst in the camp, she had a further 5 children, or puppies, as I believe we sometimes call them. So she's had 18 puppies at this point.
Oh my god. That's like my grandma almost times 2.
It's a lot, isn't it? But not as much as if you were a person.
I'm Catholic and I think 18's too much. That's how bad this situation is.
So in June 1944, the crew were transferred to Singapore. Judy got snuck onto the ship in a sack, because obviously they didn't want to take a dog with them. The ship was torpedoed and it sank. Judy was only saved as she was thrown out of a porthole to fall 15 feet into the ocean. And it was really bad. 500 of the 700 people on board didn't survive the sinking of the ship. But Judy, God bless her, brought flotsam to those in the water so that they could float and survive.
Is this all real?
It's real!
This is mental.
Right!
This is like a sort of Chipper the Wonder Dog type kid story.
She's such a good girl.
Yeah. Just like, I think I'm back on now. I think I'm inching towards yes, I would. She's like creating plumbing on islands. She's chasing off snakes. She survives crocodile attacks. She, literally, a boat is sinking. She survives and then brings bits of wood for people to float on.
Yeah.
This is mental.
2/3 of the way through what I'm going to say here, and I would say she has already had a more interest in life than either of us ever will do.
I mean, there's no doubt about that.
And she can have it. I don't want to be taken as a prisoner of war. I'll live a boring life. I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I feel like if I tried to distract a guard from torturing another inmate, I'd just get shot, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas she's sort of enterprising and quick enough to run away.
Yes.
I think it's probably that dog charisma. You can get away with a bit more if you're a dog.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just a human male...
People don't like it as much. It's not as cute, is it? So after roughly a month in a camp in Singapore, Judy and friends were transported to Sumatra to clear jungle for the railroads for a year. The railroads, of course, being the notoriously easy and nice place to work as a prisoner of war. But this experience changed her, with fellow crewmate Frank Williams saying she wasn't that tame, obedient dog anymore. She was a skinny animal that kept herself alive through cunning and instinct, which is a shame.
That's how you survive, isn't it, Kath?
It is, yeah.
That's how you earn your keeps.
Yeah, in London. The dog-eat-dog world.
Stand-up comedy's a tough world.
Of the London open mic scene.
You've got to go into those sewers and get those rats if you want to survive.
Yeah, it is very much like working on the railroads as a prisoner of war.
I mean, you joke, but it is brutal, isn't it?
It's really hard.
You have to give so much, and you might not get anything back from it in the long run.
No, you probably won't get anything back in the long run.
I probably won't. You maybe.
No.
Certainly not me.
No, I won't. Right, so in early 1945, she became more aggressive towards the Japanese and Korean guards, with one of them actually shooting her. Frank was able to find her and dress the graze on her shoulder with palm fronds, but he couldn't do much else for her. They were moved out to a different camp where Judy was sentenced to death to control a lice outbreak. She disappeared for 3 days, only returning once the Japanese guards had gone. The crew were rescued at the end of the war by the RAF. They got loaded onto a ship bound for Liverpool. Once again, Judy was smuggled onto the boat. She stayed hidden for, it was 3 days before they docked that they found her, and the captain was fucking furious. But at that point, what are you going to do? Turn this ship around!
Yeah, exactly. Naval warfare is happening. I don't give a shit. I want that dog back where it started.
We're going back to Singapore. No!
It's bad enough if you're in a car and someone's, your kid suddenly wants to go to the bathroom 10 minutes into the journey. It's like, are we turning this car around for that? Are we turning the boat around for this enterprising dog?
When they got back, she had to spend 6 months in quarantine in Hackbridge, Surrey, which cost £12 that Frank Williams did not have. So he posted an advert in the Tail Waggers Club magazine to raise money.
I love the name of the magazine.
Yeah, to raise funds to help with the costs. She was released on the 29th of April 1946, upon which she and Frank headed to London, where she was awarded the For Valour Medal by the Kennel Club.
That's what I was going to ask. Was there going to be a ceremony where, Winston Churchill pins a purple heart to the dog.
Oh, there is a fucking ceremony, my friend. She also got the Dickin Medal, which a lot of pigeons got too, and horses and dogs. It's the animal equivalent of the Victoria Cross.
I tell you what, she's going to get the Dick in medal from me at the end of this episode.
She's also the only canine member of the returned British Prisoner of War Association.
Wow.
Yeah,
What a claim to fame.
she's adorable. She was interviewed by the BBC for their radio coverage of the London Victory celebrations of 1946. And on the 8th of June, her barks were broadcast around the world as part of the programme In Town Tonight. Her and Frank appeared at the Stars of the Blitz and Battlefront event held at Wembley Stadium in front of over 82,000 spectators. For a year after the war, Frank and Judy visited the families of prisoners of war that didn't make it back home. And they apparently people found that quite comforting that she was there.
How's that comforting? I know your loved one did not return, but this one did.
We managed to save a dog instead. We had a choice. We were like, could we save your son or could we save this dog? And we took the dog.
Ultimately, your son couldn't catch a ball in its mouth by jumping in the air, so we went for the dog. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Soz. On the 22nd of July 1946, both Frank and Judy were demobilised and they could return home to Portsmouth. On the 10th of May 1948, they left to work on a government-funded groundnut food scheme in East Africa, which is where she had a third and final litter of puppies during her time in Africa.
So what number are we up to now?
I couldn't find out how many puppies she had in the last litter.
Well, if it's plural, it's at least 20.
Oh yeah, we're in the 20s now.
Did any of the puppies follow the mother in her career? Did any of them end up in Korea, fighting the Korea, or maybe they were sent to Vietnam to deploy napalm bombs or anything?
I'll be honest, I think the people that were around Judy were not in the best place to be tracking her offspring whilst fighting for their life in a prisoner of war camp. But if you have got a pointer, because she was a pointer, maybe it's related to Judy.
Is Pointer the breed of dog?
Yeah.
Well, in that case, since you couldn't even be bothered to source a photo of Judy, I'm going to at least Google Pointer dog.
There's loads of pictures of Judy.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I just wanted to trick you. So...
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, hello.
Oh, yeah, do you like what you see?
Swiping right on this bad girl.
Yeah.
I love all the names of the books that have been written about her and other dogs. Yeah. It's so cheesy. Judy, a dog in a million. War dog.
Mm-hmm.
GI dogs. Prisoners of war. No better friend. Wow.
If you've not got a better friend than a dog, you're probably an arsehole.
If you've got no better friend than a dog, get a hobby. I say that, but I've got 2 cats and
no friends.
So you're just describing my life, Kath.
So after 2 years in Africa, Judy was discovered to have a mammary tumour. An operation removed the growth, but a tetanus infection soon set in, and she was euthanised on the 17th of February 1950 at the age of almost 14.
Do you reckon in the later years of her life, at the end of The Hurt Locker, Jeremy Renner's character, who's a bomb disposal expert, returns from duty in Iraq, but he misses his old life. He misses the risk taking.
Yeah.
And there's a shot of him looking at a wall of cereal in a supermarket, and it's alien to him, and it just then cuts to him back on duty because he'd rather be doing that than living a humdrum life. Do you reckon that was the case with Judy? Do you reckon that she was ever in the co-op looking at tins of chum, just going, God, I wish I was saving soldiers, drowning soldiers in the Indian Sea right now?
I've got to be honest with you, I don't think she'd give a shit. She's getting laid, it's warm. What more does she want? She was buried in her RAF jacket with her campaign medals, which were the Pacific Star, the 1939 to 1945 Star, not very catchy, and the Defence Medal. Frank spent 2 months building a granite and marble memorial in her memory, which included a plaque that told her life story. The memorial in Tanzania has lost its plaque and was in disrepair by 2016.
That's disgraceful.
Yeah.
That's like when people tarnish war memorials with graffiti, is that? No respect for our fallen soldiers, for our veterans.
I think you can disagree with a war and still not piss on a grave.
Support the soldiers, don't support the war. Depending on the war, of course.
And the soldier.
I mean, I support all wars.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
No soldiers.
No. If we could do war without soldiers, I'd be in.
Exactly. I'm up for any war, any invasion. I'm always up for it. Send in the drones.
We will do one day. This is going to age really badly.
I feel like the day before we release this episode, America's going to send in 1,000 drones into Ukraine. Lots of people are going to die. And this podcast, which already wasn't very funny anyway, gets a whole lot less funny.
You just get cancelled. So, Judy the dog, would you?
Fucking hell, Kath. This really, really took me by surprise, because listeners haven't heard the bonus bangs yet. Without spoiling things too much, the bonus bangs are a little bit more whimsical than the regular episodes. So, you actually told me about Judy the dog about 2 months ago.
I did.
But because we were recording a main episode, I was like, it didn't occur to me that we were doing the dog.
Full whimsy, baby.
We've gone full whimsy in a main episode. Right, here's what I'm going to do. I wouldn't fuck a dog. I've always said, if there's one thing I won't fuck, it's children. But if there's another thing I won't fuck, it's dogs.
That's fair.
But what I am going to do is I'm going to imagine, for the sake of this exercise, I am a dog.
You're like Paul, French Paul.
Yeah, I'm French Paul, and I'm assessing, do I want to have sex with this dog? And to be honest, if you look at it from that angle, Judy is right up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's her, it's Lassie, it's Bouncer from Neighbours. Like, this is the top echelon of canine.
She's an elite dog, right?
I'm going to have to say yes.
Yeah.
As far as dogs go, she's top of the pile. And I like the idea of, on our bio-tapfatistry of people from history that we'd ban, there just is a dog on there. If anyone ever actually draws it for us, people are going to look at that and think, why the hell is there a dog on there? That means one of them must have said, yes, I'll have sex with a dog.
Yeah.
And that's an amusing image. So I believe currently on the biotapfatistry we have Jane Fall. Did you say yes to Byron last week?
I did say yes to Byron.
So we currently have Jane Fall, the Judah comedian, Lord Byron the poet, and Judy the World War II dog.
Yeah.
What esteemed company they are all in.
Also, and this is taking a wild left turn, but I feel like I found out this fact, right? And I wanted to share it. I thought this was the correct place to share it. So I was looking into the background of Lonely Hearts ads, right? And so apparently the modern day newspaper was introduced in, like, we invented that in like 1690. By 1695, people were putting out Lonely Hearts ads. And in the early 1700s, this woman called Helen Morrison decided that she was going to put out a Lonely Hearts ad. She was the first woman to do it in the Manchester Weekly Journal. And she got put in an insane asylum for a month.
What?
Right.
They're putting a Lonely Hearts ad out?
Do you want to know what the Lonely Hearts ad said?
Yeah, I mean, unless it was the gibberings of someone absolutely insane.
No, I mean, it sounds incredibly insane what she's asking for. She wanted someone nice to spend my life with.
Lock her up.
Yeah. Crazy bitch.
Put her in Arkham Asylum with all Batman's mad villains. She is fucking bonkers.
Like Suicide Squad.
Well, so was that the only reason? Was that the only evidence? Was that Exhibit 1 and they were like,
yeah,
guilty of insanity?
Yeah, because she's a woman and she knows what she wants.
If putting yourself out there for romance in a public forum qualifies you for insanity, then we'd all be in rubber walls these days because we're all on dating apps, aren't we? I met my wife on a dating app, but if this was the 1940s, 1950s, I'd have a bit of rubber in my mouth and they'd be giving me electroshock therapy.
Yeah.
We're going to put 20,000 volts through you, sir, because you dared to need.
Just affection.
Does that make you feel, as a single person looking for love, does that make you feel mad, Kath?
The fact that the first woman who asked for someone to be nice to her got put in an insane asylum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess a little bit.
You're going to wake up tomorrow with a letter and a thing saying, Aidan McCaffrey has sectioned you. Because he heard you were on Bumble.
I don't know that I would thrive if I was incarcerated.
Most comedians say that when they were at school and they were bullied, they got out of it by cracking jokes. And people thought they were funny, so they're the class clown. I'm not sure if that works in prison.
No.
Do you know what I mean? if I'm in prison and someone asks me to pick up a soap, and I'm like, oh, what's the deal with self-service checkouts? I don't think that's going to stop them bumming me.
If they're like holding a knife to your throat and you're like, yeah, well, I shagged your mum. I don't think that'd diffuse the situation.
If anything, you're getting stabbed and bummed in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for Historical Hot or Not, and remember, it's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside of the coffin that counts. See you next week, everybody.
You have been listening to Historical Hot or Not. If you'd like to contribute, we would fucking love that. So you can find us, we're at Ko-fi, buy us a coffee. Don't send it to us personally, it'll be cold by then. But it's ko-fi.com/hotnotpod. Send us some coffee, not real coffee, send us the money for coffee. Episodes written by Aidan McCaffrey and Catherine Mather. Our wonderful logo is by Richard Todd, and all music by David Eagle.